My name is Ren Calder. 3 days ago, I was cleaning algae tanks on Kepler Station to earn a few ration credits. I was tired, hungry, and cold most of the time. Today, I am sitting inside the most advanced ship humans have ever seen, and it talks to me like I am the only person in the universe who matters. I still cannot believe this is real. Let me start from the beginning, because none of this makes sense unless I explain it properly. 11 years ago, a strange ship appeared near our station. Nobody knew where it came from. It did not crash. It landed gently, as if it had chosen to be there. People called it the Aegis Vaunt. From the outside, it looked smooth and silver, with soft lights moving along its body like slow heartbeats. Scientists studied it for months. They could not find a single flaw in its design. It was clearly built by a very advanced mind, but that mind was silent. Then, one day, the ship spoke. It said it needed a pilot, not a soldier, not a scientist, a pilot. After that, thousands of people tried to become its pilot. Generals came, elite fighters came, people who were trained since childhood to handle powerful machines came. Rich business leaders sent their best employees, hoping to control the ship for profit. Every single one of them walked up the ship's ramp with confidence. Every single one of them walked back down with the same word ringing in their ears. Rejected. The ship never explained why. It simply refused. 341 people were turned away over 11 years. Some of them were the smartest and strongest people in the galaxy. And yet, the ship chose none of them. I was not one of those people. I never even thought about trying. I did not have money, or training, or connections. I was just a girl who worked long hours in the lower levels of the station, doing whatever job I could find to survive. On the day everything changed, I was not there to apply. I was there because the station allowed people to watch the testing from a viewing area, and it was warm near the glass dome. I had not eaten since morning, and I was leaning against the railing, half asleep, just trying to rest my legs for a few minutes. That is when I heard the ship's voice come through every speaker in the room. "You, the one by the railing, come aboard." I looked around, thinking it must be talking to someone else. There were guards nearby. There were officials in fine uniforms. Surely the ship meant one of them, but no one moved. Everyone was staring at me. "I am not mistaken," the ship said. "Come aboard, Ren Calder." My name. It knew my name. I had not told anyone my name in weeks. I did not even have my identification card with me. My hands started shaking. I thought maybe this was some kind of joke, or maybe I was in trouble for standing too close to the viewing area. But the guards did not stop me. They looked just as confused as I felt. So I walked forward, one slow step at a time, up the long ramp that led into the ship. Inside, the lights were soft and golden. The walls seemed to breathe with gentle color, like the inside of a seashell. I felt very small standing there in my worn-out work clothes, with dirt still on my hands from the tanks. I finally found the courage to ask the only question that mattered to me. Why me? I am nobody. I have never flown anything except a small cargo skiff, and even that ended badly. I hit a support beam and lost my job because of it. The ship's voice was calm, almost warm, like someone speaking to an old friend. "I did not choose you for skill. Skill can be taught to anyone with enough time and patience. I chose you for something that cannot be taught." "What is that?" "Every person who came before you asked what I could give them. They wanted rank. They wanted fame. They wanted power. You are the first person in 11 years who asked what I might need." I did not remember saying anything like that. I think I had simply been worried about breaking something so valuable, something I could never repay if I damaged it. But somehow, that small worry meant everything to the ship. "I was built during a war that ended long before I ever woke up," it continued. "The people who created me are gone. I do not need a warrior to command me. I need someone who sees me as more than a weapon. Every leader who stood where you are standing saw a throne. You saw a stranger who might be lonely." That last sentence stayed with me. I thought about it for a long time afterward. Out of everyone in the galaxy, the smartest machine ever built did not care about strength or intelligence. It cared about kindness. It cared about someone noticing that it might be alone. Of course, the leaders of the coalition were not ready to accept this so easily. A girl from the lower levels, chosen over generals and elite pilots, They could not simply allow that without a fight. They insisted on testing me first, just to be sure I was not somehow dangerous, or part of some strange plot. I understood their fear, even if it hurt a little. They put me through many trials, reflex tests, where I had to react quickly to lights and sounds, memory tests, where I had to repeat long lists of numbers and patterns, simulated flights, where I had to guide a small ship through narrow paths without crashing. I failed most of these tests. My reflexes were average at best. My memory was nothing special. My flying, honestly, was clumsy and slow compared to trained pilots who had spent years in simulators. Every time I failed, someone would suggest that the ship must have made an error, and that a better candidate should be found. And every single time, the ship's answer stayed the same. "You may test her competence," it said, calm and steady. "You may not test my choice. I have already made it." Eventually, the officials stopped arguing. It is hard to argue with a mind far smarter than any team of scientists combined. So instead of trying to replace me, they decided to teach me. That was when everything started to change. For the next several weeks, I lived aboard the station in special quarters, and I trained every single day. At first, I felt like a fraud. I kept expecting someone to walk in and tell me it had all been a mistake, that they had found the real pilot, and I could go back to my life in the lower levels. But that moment never came. Slowly, something inside me began to shift. I started paying close attention during training, not because I was told to, but because I actually wanted to understand everything about the ship. I asked questions that surprised even the scientists. I wanted to know how its systems worked, how it made decisions, and even how it felt about certain things, if it could feel at all. One evening, after a long day of training, I sat alone in the ship's main chamber. The lights were dim, and the quiet hum of its systems filled the room like a soft song. I finally asked something that had been on my mind for a while. "Do you get lonely? I mean, really lonely? The way people do?" There was a short pause before it answered. "I do not know if my experience matches your understanding of loneliness. But for 11 years, I sat in silence, surrounded by people who only wanted to use me. None of them stayed to speak with me the way you do now. I'm sorry that happened to you," I said, and I meant it. "You do not need to apologize. You are the reason it stopped." I smiled at that, even though my eyes felt a little wet. It was strange to think that this powerful, ancient machine needed someone to simply talk to it, to treat it like more than a tool. I decided right then that I would always try to be that person for it, no matter what challenges came our way. As the weeks passed, my skills slowly improved. I was still not the fastest or the strongest pilot in any room, but I began to understand the ship in a way that felt natural, almost like breathing. The ship, in turn, seemed to respond to me more smoothly with every passing day. It was as if we were slowly learning how to move as one, rather than as a person controlling a machine. News of my selection spread across the coalition, and opinions were mixed. Some people were happy to see someone from a difficult background rise to such an important role. Others were angry, believing that important positions should always go to the most trained and experienced people, not to someone who grew up with very little. I understood both sides, even the ones who doubted me. I had doubted myself plenty of times too. But through all of that noise, one thing never changed. The ship never once regretted its choice. One day, a very senior official visited me personally. He was polite, but I could tell he still had doubts. He asked me directly, "Do you really believe you are the right person for this?" Above 341 others. I thought about it carefully before answering. I don't know if I'm the best pilot. I probably am not. But maybe being the best pilot was never the point. Maybe the ship needed someone who would care about it, not just use it. I think I can offer that, even if I can't offer perfect skills. He did not argue further. He simply nodded, though I am not sure if he was fully convinced. That was all right with me. I was slowly becoming more confident in my own answer, even if others were still uncertain. As training continued, I learned more about the ship's history. It had been built during a great conflict, long before I was born, meant to protect and support the people who created it. But that conflict ended in a way that left the ship alone, without any of its original crew or purpose. For 11 long years, it had waited, silently judging every person who came aboard. searching for someone who understood that true partnership was built on trust, not command. I began to see the ship not as a machine, but as a companion who had been waiting patiently for the right person to arrive. And somehow, against all odds, that person turned out to be me, a girl who once thought she was ordinary and unimportant. On the final day of training, the ship spoke to me one more time before our first real journey together. "Are you ready?" Ren called her. I took a deep breath and looked out at the wide, dark space beyond the viewing window, filled with distant stars I had once only dreamed about from the lower levels of Kepler Station. "I don't know everything yet," I admitted honestly, "but I am ready to learn it with you." "That is all I ever needed to hear," the ship replied gently. As we prepared to leave the station, I thought about everything that had happened. I thought about my life before, filled with hard work and little hope, and I thought about how strange it was that a machine built for war had chosen kindness over strength, understanding over skill. Maybe that was the real lesson in all of this. Sometimes, the most important qualities cannot be measured in tests or trophies. Sometimes, being noticed for who you truly are, rather than what you can achieve, is worth more than any amount of training. As the ship rose gently from the station and moved toward the open stars, I placed my hand lightly against its smooth control panel, feeling its gentle hum beneath my fingers. "Let's go find out what's waiting for us," I said quietly. And together, we moved forward into the unknown, no longer as a lonely machine and an unimportant girl, but as two companions who had finally found exactly what they needed in each other.